IP addresses. Now, with a class uh, B, you have what? 16, right? Over here, 88, 16 bits, all ones. So on the first one, we took one away with a class A, right? With the class B, we're gonna take two away. And then with plus, I don't want to like overwhelm you too much with this. But since they mentioning about number of networks here and stuff like that, I want you to know how you get this number of networks. Okay, so 16. On the first one, you took one away. On the second one, you're gonna take what? Two away. You end up with 14. So if you take two to the 14th power, will give you over 16,000. It's actually 16,384. So you subtract two, so it's 16,382. Tells you 384. Okay. Now you have 16 bits for the host, the zeros, and if you take two to the 16 power, that will give you over 65,536 IP addresses. But again, you have times two, 534. Okay. Now, with the class C, right? You're going to take away bits as well.
You never found the tonal clipper.
This one, we took one. On the second one, we took two. On the third one, how many are we going to take? Yes.
Three.
Three. There you go. Three. You end up and then with how many bits to find networks? If you have 24 and you take out three, you end up with 21.
One.
So if you take 21, if you take two to the 21st power, you get over 2,097,150 networks. Okay, now we only have 10 here that we're going to use for host, and that's 8. So 2 to the 8th power is what? 256 minus 2 minus the network address and the broadcast address. So 254. So that's how you get your number of networks, guys, and your number of hosts per network. And then with plus, we're going to do subnetting. We're going to play with different numbers to find different networks and different hosts per network. It's very fun. Okay. All right, guys. So with the exam, tip. Make sure that you know your subnet mask. It doesn't hurt to know how to get the number of networks in case they ask, and the number of hosts per network. So you can memorize it. I doubt they will ask you to with a formula how to find the number, but they might ask you how many networks can you have on a class A IP address? What's the number of network, maximum network? 126. Class B, over 16,000. Class B, over 2 millions. Number of hosts per network. Class A, over 16,000. Class B, over 65,000. And Class C, up to 254 hosts or IP addresses. Okay, so subnet mask, you have to know them as well. So the first one, Class A only has one, only 1, 2, 3, 5. This is how I learned my subnet mask. I know it was 255. Okay, Class A 1, Class B 2, Class C 3. Okay. Right there, easy to memorize. Okay. Again, default subnet mask because once we start subnetting, this subnet mask will change. Okay. You have seen the default, it could be something like this. You see, like 255, 255, 255, that 192. That is not a default subnet mask. That is
That's cheating.
IP address that has been subnetted. Okay, so that's what we call classless IP addresses. The one that has a default subnet mask is called classful subnet IP address.
I keep doing the same thing.
All right, guys. So now one more thing here. Know your ranges. Okay. Someone has a question. Catherine, yes, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, in some of the labs, it mentions like ranges when it assigns the addresses to like
Hi,
different
Friday animation.
um, in the network for an organization. Will it always be those last digits that show what the range is, or can the numbers like in the 255 section also be considered, like be adjusted to, I guess, be assigned to like dictate ranges, if that makes sense? I don't know if I'm making sense in my question.
You are. You are. Okay. So you're talking about DHCP server, right? When we create those range of IPs.
Yes.
Okay. So when you're working with
Okay, I'm creating a new rule
a private network,
program.
you're going to be using private IP addresses. So it could be something like 10,
Okay.
172.16, or 192.168.1. So then you create the range. So let's start with a class C, which is the smaller one, and the one that we always like to use for teaching purposes because it's the smaller one. So it's better to understand. So if you have a network address of something like this, that's your network address, right? So now, if I want valid IP addresses, I could be something like this: 192. This one, I'm gonna make it. You know what? Let's make it now. Let's make this A1. So all of this is network. I have it right here. Look, all of this is network, right? This is the host. But here, I could have a range of from one all the way to 254. So that's the range that you create. Okay, so when you using DHCP, you don't have to go all the way to 254. You can say, okay, I want my range to be, especially if you are excluding IP addresses, you could say, all right, my range would be what? From 10 all the way to 100. Okay, so you tell the DHCP server which IP addresses to assign within that range. So anything below 10, from 1 to 9, it could be used routers, switches, the printer, and you're going to exclude those IP addresses. Of course, you would tell the ECP server as well, do not assign this IP addresses because these will be used as static IPs.
Yes.
Do not assign IP addresses over 100.
Yes.
I want to keep it between 10 and 100. Okay, so this is your minimum one, and this is your maximum 250. So that's how the range works. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. No problem. Yeah, I know. See, we like to use the class C because the class C is very easy to explain. Because why? Because we only need one zero, only one. Okay. But a class B, we have to deal with two zeros. But a class A, we have to deal with three zeros, and that's when we gather the huge. Okay? At the beginning. All right. Okay, so for now here, this range that you see, this one is a different one. This one has the what? The public and the private. Okay. So one again, one be the same. Always be the same. It doesn't matter if it's private or public. Once you start subnetting, especially a public IP address, this subnet mask will change completely. Okay. Now, private IP addresses from 10.0.0.0 all the way to 10.255.255.254. That would be the range. You could assign that to what? To a DHCP server. Okay? 255 cannot be assigned. Cannot be used, and we know why. Because this is the IP address that the switches, TCPs, and routers will use to send broadcast signal to all the devices on the network. Okay. So now when you're looking at and I'm pretty sure they're gonna ask you to identify between a public and a private IP address. All right. So for the class A, very easy guys. Just look at the first octet, the first 8 bits. So here it always starts with 10. If it's 9, it's public. If it's 11, it's public. Remember that, all right? Don't let you trick you with this thing, okay? Only if it's 10.
Wow, it still said that I did stuff wrong.
The rest doesn't matter. It be 10, that one, it will be private for you. But if it's
I don't know.
11, that one should be public.
I said
Now,
page
look at the
3,
next one.
page 10.
Starting from 128, that's 0 to 0, all the way to 191, the 255, the 255, the 255. Again, that 255 would be the last IP on the network.
And it's gonna make me start all over.
When you use it.
No, it's gonna make me just do page 10 and 3. Okay.
And we
So what did I forget?
those devices. Private IP addresses for Class B. This one is a very special one, and you have to be very careful with this one.
I did all that.
Okay, because this one has the range of 16 all the way to what? 31. There you go. See? 172, that's 16, that's 0, that's 0 to 172, that's 31, that's 55, that's 65. This would be the last one again. Okay, so if it is 172, that 15,
I'm just gonna make sure I
that one
click all of them.
public. It's public. Very good. If it's 172, that 32, public. See, it has to be within that range between 16 and 31 is the private IP address. Okay, and back then this was causing a lot of issues because um, administrators were assigning this IP address, like for instance, 172 that 32 network, and then it was conflict with all the devices out there on the internet. Okay, so we have to always memorize do not pass 31 because that is a public IP address and it might interfere with another device on the internet. Okay, but usually uh, all the classes, all the class B IP addresses that I have seen in different networks, it's always like 172.16.0.0 or 172.20. I never seen 31, honestly. It's always like um, 16 or
I got a 40.
20, that range. 16 and actually
Yes.
172, like 20. I've seen 20, not 10 because that would be public. I've seen 16 and I think 20. Okay, so but usually it's very common to see 172 that's 16.
Don't I need a 70 to move on?
See
You got a 70 on your lab?
the range here for the private addresses 192,
Thanks for the help.
168, that's 0 to 0, all the way to 192, 168, that's 255, that's 255. Okay, so again, this is the broadcast address for the class C, and this is the one, usually we'll use um, a class C for one networks, and you could open a command prompt on your computer, your device, and run IP config.
What's
Right?
today's? Is today day 12?
Class, who knows, for class B, maybe your router comes like that, in your ISP, class C. Find out what you have on your network. All right, so now Class C 192, 168. If it's 167, even though it starts with 192, is public. If it's 169, 192 to 169 is also public. Okay, it always has to be 192 to 168. Right, so that's what makes it private. So that's what you need to know, need to have in consideration when memorizing private IP addresses. Class A is
So easy.
all right. Second one, that range between 16 and 31, and the
Not
last one.
quiz. I'm on the labs. I'm not passing.
So the private IP address meaning they could be used internally on your network. Different networks could have the same IP, private IP address. There would be no conflict. Why? Because those IP addresses are non-routable. They don't go out to the internet. That's why the network needs public IP addresses and also the device that connects network to the internet. And it's a technology called NAT, Network Address Translation, that would translate from private to public and from public to private. Okay. Now, Class D, it goes to range, no subnet mask, no number of networks, no host per network. You don't have to worry about.
Inventory.
E, the same thing.
Uh,
Okay.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Everything's A, B, and C.